Welcome back. You have reached Old Guys Still Rock. If this is your first time here, my name is Blair Armstrong. I'm with Team Armstrong Coldwell Banker located in beautiful Indian Wells, California. In just a quick moment, we're going to join a very good friend of mine for almost 30 years, Brent Wright of Brent Wright Incorporated. He's actually located in Eugene, Oregon. But today we're in episode number 40. Our topic today, that's our topic, is going to be honor your commitment. What are you doing in the dark? What are you seeing when you're looking at yourself at the end of the day that is helping you become better? Are you taking the shopping cart and putting it away when someone else hasn't? Those type of things. So we're going to take the next 30, 35 minutes and kind of break it down of kind of what we're doing, what we've seen other people do, and how it's impacted us, and how it's impacted other people. So we really hope that you enjoy this episode. As I said, episode number 40. Not a lot of people get to say that. Usually these type of podcasts die after episode 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're very, very grateful for all your support, all your wisdom. Thank you for sharing the show. For those who have subscribed, thank you for subscribing. If you're watching this and you haven't, hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate it. This will never be a podcast of monetary value, meaning we're never going to take money for this, so we can have free-flowing conversations and not be shadow banned or throttled or whatever that may be. So again, thank you for your support. We hope that you enjoy this episode. Don't forget to share it. Don't forget to leave us a comment. So right now we're going to go ahead and bring Brent in, and then we'll see you guys on the other side. Have a great day. Bye. All right. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening, wherever you may be when you're watching Old Guys Still Rock. Sometimes we can't talk on this show, so sorry about that. I am hooked on phonics, and we're good to go. Guys, for the first time, if this is your first time, I am Blair Armstrong. I'm located in beautiful Indian Wells, California. We are going through some weather right now, but it's still gorgeous out. We actually had some rain last night, put some snow in the mountains about 30 miles away from us. It was just really weird because we'll be about 75 degrees on the floor, and we have snow in the mountains. And then on my right, possibly your left, whatever which way you're viewing this, is Brent Wright, a good friend of mine and co-host of this show, Brent Wright Incorporated. Brent and I have been good friends for almost 30 years now, if not 30 years. It's been a bit.
Coming on.
But what's up, brother? How are you? Guess what today is?
Today is a wonderful day. It's a wonderful day to have woke up and be alive, and I feel blessed to have done so. It was 23 last night, and it's supposed to be 57 today. So,
wow.
Yeah, big swings in our spring weather. The daffodils are popping out, so
that's crazy.
It's coming. Right? We got spring ahead this weekend, so we won't have to go to work in the dark and come home in the dark anymore.
I know, right?
Kind of weird.
Yeah, it was kind of like this morning. For us, we kind of stay in the same. I don't know why that we have daylight saving time, because we're kind of stuck in that spot that is just like it's pointless. We may get an extra hour out of the day, but it's definitely not like Oregon or up in the Pacific Northwest where it could be light till 9:30, 9:45 at night sometimes. But what I was alluding to when I asked you what today's episode number 40, brother.
40.
We made it. Finally, it has only taken me 3 weeks to get there. But I do want to recognize something, and I don't know if you've ever have met this person, but he was a big person through the community in Eugene area. I don't know if you knew Dallas Boggs or not.
No.
Did you ever meet Dallas?
Familiar, but I don't. Yeah.
He was really kind of he was a big part of the community in Eugene. He was a manager of Brenner Furniture down there, kind of branched off and did some other things, but also came back to become the manager at Brenner's Furniture after he stepped away for a little bit. Joe Daniels, who was on our show a couple of weeks ago, those guys were best friends and stuff like that. Dallas Boggs was also a part of the police commission board down in Eugene, trying to help that get better. So on a sad note, actually a sad or happy note, depending on the way that you're looking at it, unfortunately, Mr. Boggs had a major health issue and passed away 2 days ago. So for those of you that knew him, Our thoughts and prayers are with you guys. We know, again, the guys that were friends with them, we know what an impact this is on your lives. I knew him from afar, but he's one of those guys which you met, which Brent and I hope that we come to. He's one of those guys that you met. You guys were instantaneous friends, like right then and there. So one of those special people. So again, to all of his friends and his family, our thoughts and prayers are with you through this time, and I hope that your heart heals fast. But knowing that Dallas is definitely in a better place and shining down upon us to give us some strength and wisdom through all the days that we're left here on this earth. So not a sad moment, but want to kind of celebrate him through this episode that we wanted to talk about today, which is, on your commitment. What are you doing when people aren't looking? There's a lot of things when you told me about this the other day of how we want to, there's a lot of onion, I guess, that I use that analogy a lot that you can peel back on this. But to kind of fill us in here, Brent, on this is when this came to your head, what spurred this thought and this conversation topic to kind of like, let's really get into this and see where it goes.
Yeah. So as I was saying, pre-show discussion, what kind of a person am I when nobody's looking? What do I honor my commitments in the dark and in the darkness? If I honor my commitments in the dark, that means when nobody's looking and nobody can judge me, nobody can hold me accountable. And in the darkness means when I'm having a bad day or I'm having a struggle or I'm stressed or I don't have time. One of my interview questions that I always ask people during interviews is, if you're on your way to a wedding and it's your best friend's wedding, and they call you and say, please stop by the store on your way and get something. I know you're going to be right on the edge of being late, but I need you to pick this up on the way. So you go into the store and you come out, and there are shopping carts in the middle of the parking lot on the way out to your car. Nobody's there. Do you clean up the carts? Or do you get in your car so that way you're not late to the wedding and you can get that item to your friend who's going to get married that day? And there's no right or wrong answer.
Right.
But the opportunity in the interview is for me to get a purview or an idea of how that person thinks. Like, are they torn with the fact that they have two things that have to be done? Or do they not care that there's carts in the parking lot and it's not that big of a deal?
Right.
We hear the saying, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so that question for me in an interview is to understand how they do the one thing and how they honor their commitments in the dark or the darkness.
Yeah. And that also,
that's super important for me.
I think that's a good too. And it could be, it also could be a stepping stone for betterment as we can continue our progress to reach that. I don't know if we'll ever reach a pinnacle, but to continue to pursue greatness, right? Okay, so maybe that answer doesn't come out the way that you're hoping for, but it also gives you a spot for your employees or for whoever you're asking that question to, if you're asking for coaching or a customer, whatever. It gives you a spot to like, okay, let's help grow in this. And not only does that help them grow, but it will help you grow to better facilitate it. And I think it also is a trigger for us all. Like, okay, if we're going to try to help somebody become better, it's really kind of that way for us as well. Like, okay, if we're going to ask that person to get better or to help them get better, we have to do that same thing. I just went through this with David, who was on with us last week. I have just, trying to figure out some just ways to generate him. He's doing such a great job, but sometimes we hit plateaus, right? Like it's struggling and mentally getting beat down and all these different things. And so I asked him, I'm sure that he can hear me because he's just right next to the studio out here. But anyway, I just said to it, it's like a Monday who's kind of his regroup day, right? I mean, it's kind of, he's working another job trying to get his real estate business up and running and doing all these different things. And sometimes you just feel taxed, right? So what'd you do yesterday? And He's like, well, I went hiking and ran some errands. I'm like, so what'd you do with your business?
How'd you move the needle?
How'd you move the needle? And he didn't have an answer for that. There's no wrong thing about that. The point of it is that sometimes other people need to hold you accountable. I get held accountable. I could use my, my things, the way that I use my wording. I was just approached. I was just presented. I don't know if you want to call it approached or made aware of that sometimes when somebody asks me something to do, maybe not you. My wording is different for that person compared to other people. Like, hey, can you do this for me? Yeah, or normally I will say absolutely. This person, I said, I'm right in the middle of something. I will get to it once I'm done. And how that translate, it makes one person feel better than the other. So again, it's going back to, I say this for the reason of, it's going back to is what are you doing when people aren't looking? So if get just on the soapbox, here we go for therapy Thursdays to get all this ish out right now. If you guys have watched our last couple episodes, I really say over the last 6, 7, 8 of them, there has been a massive season of refinement for me, and looking in the mirror, talking to some different people, what Brent has been able to bring to board, what David's been able to bring to board from our past guests. God has me in a season of refinement, and some days it's fun and some days it sucks really bad. And the days you get held accountable is when it sucks, because you're like, and I was just letting this person know that we were talking about is this, it sets a trigger that I'm failing. I failed. And Ed Milet brought this up with Jamie Kern Lima, and I brought this back up to stacking. And I think we talked about stacking last week too. It's just like another failure. And unfortunately that will shut you down. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So what I love about this is honor your, what are you doing when people aren't looking? Those little things take away the triggers that you are failing.
Yeah.
So that was a giant circle.
Yeah, exactly. It's real easy to honor your commitments when somebody's there.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really because you don't want to fail them. You don't want to let them down. You don't want to look bad. You don't, all those feelings and emotions and thoughts that go through your head.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you do when nobody's there?
Yeah.
Are you honorable to yourself? Are you honorable to your commitments? And then in the darkness, like, you pre-show, you're like, I'm just
I'm gonna kill somebody.
You're just struggling, right? And so, but do you slow the process down? Are you playing checkers? Are you playing chess? Are you the person that you that you want to execute, or you're having those strong feelings towards? Is it them or is it you? And what's the commitment level, right? And what is it that drove the impasse between you during this engagement? And I don't know anything about it. I mean, guys, seriously, we didn't talk about any of it. I'm just throwing this out. Like, is it you? Is it them? Is it a combination? Could it be that they're holding you accountable and it doesn't feel good? You don't like it. I don't know. I don't know the situation. But for me, I had an opportunity to not honor my commitment in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm being tested.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm playing chess, then what I do today is going to pay out either good or bad in 6 months. Because I truly believe that. I truly believe the actions you create today are your 6 months from now results.
Yeah, and I go back and to stay with on this common thread is, honor your commitment, right? What I've done in the past, and I still have that. Again, we're trying to work through 52 years of stuff in the last 6 months. But what I was going to say is that I get very combative, like, defensive, which just makes it worse. So really is honoring that commitment of like, okay, if you really want to get better, what are you doing? Are you actually listening, or are you just taking it is I think what you're right, when you're getting critiqued, and it really matters too, is like, I'm now you triggered this part of it. It's just like, when you critique me, I'm okay. When other people critique me, I'm like, and I don't know why that is. I really don't. I don't know if it's the 30 years that you and I have spent together. I probably more than likely have told you to F off once in a while when you were telling me stuff.
Oh yeah.
But
and what do I do? What do I do?
You keep
freaking laugh at you.
Yeah, like whatever. And and I'm sure that there's been times when I've said stuff to you that you didn't want to hear either, but I don't know. I think the big thing is what are you doing? I want to go back to that part of what are you doing when people aren't looking, is are you taking what has been said? Are you taking what you're witnessing? Are you taking what has been someone's critiquing you or making you aware of something? Are you making those changes? But I think the big thing too is, then are you going back like, I did this? Or are you just doing it? Do you need recognition when you're doing the things, or do you not need recognition? I think that's something, we're doing in the dark. Sometimes we're like longing for this recognition to do something. At the end of the day, it's really for you, and it's really not for anybody else. Am I right when saying that?
Yeah, 100%. So if you're chasing recognition, you're chasing a carrot that you'll never reach, right? Because nobody's ever going to give you the recognition that you want or you feel you deserve in your head. And so for me, I'm really bad at not celebrating wins. I celebrate them for about 15 seconds, and then I pick on all of the things that I did wrong during that instead of actually celebrating the win. And so, one thing that I've learned to do is write down what the win was and the lesson that I learned and what I'm grateful for in that lesson, positives and negatives, and then I move on. At least I've processed it and I feel validated in the process. I don't feel validated possibly in the win, and I might purposely I'm trying to recreate that dopamine hit or adrenaline in my head and slow it down. Instead of a quick hit that's addicting, I'm trying to draw it out with the writing of it and the dragging of it, so that way that it's it's not a quick hit of dopamine that's addicting. It's this long drawn out process instead of being this little punch. And it's changed how I celebrate my wins, and I'm actually truly celebrating them. And then I'm thankful and grateful, and then I usually try to do like a little meditation or a little prayer, honoring what happened, and honoring God's placement in that in my life, because I'm really bad at that too. We all pray when we're having a bad day. Everybody. I don't care if I have friends that are atheists that pray when they're having a bad day or a bad time in their life, right? And so,
Right.
They might not be praying to quote unquote God or whatever, but they call it a meditation or whatever it is, but it's a prayer of sorts. And so, I think if you're going to go full circle on every piece of this, for me, I had to learn how to pray when I'm struggling, learn how to pray when I'm in the middle of it, and then learn how to pray and be grateful and thankful at the end. And that really has been a game changer. But similarly placed with the honor, the commitments in the dark and the darkness, you also want it's not just the purview that somebody can see you, it's that you can see you. So it goes back to staring at yourself in the mirror. If you had an opportunity to take advantage of a situation in the dark, would you do it knowing you had to stare at yourself in the mirror the next morning?
Yeah, that's a tough one. We've been talking about identity for a while. Is what is it? That's a great thought. The things that you're doing, are you going to be able at the end of the day to go back and look at the mirror and know that you did well, my good and faithful servant, right?
Exactly.
And that's tough. There's times that you're pushing, and maybe gray area gets in the way. I'm like, I, going back to biblically, what you're saying is there really anything that you're doing that someone's not seeing what you're doing, right? I mean, we believe in God. There's nothing that he does not see. So just because you think you're alone and does not get see it, or having thoughts or saying words or doing different things, is you're still being videotaped by God, and you will have to, our belief is that you will have to answer to those. Um, it's
Well,
tough.
bigger picture. What about spirit?
Yeah. Well, it
Right?
does affect you. If you continue to, you're so right when you say that. I mean, it will, it will suck the energy out of it, even if it's that dopamine hit that you want. If it's not the right
Yeah.
thing, it will eventually suck the energy out of you. That's how
Yeah.
you lick gutters and live in 200 square foot boxes for 6 months. It's true.
On the back of your truck, right?
Right. In the truck. I mean, it only goes for so long. That if you're not honest with yourself, and as I said to you, I'm trying to be as transparent as possible on this, is that you start realizing the things that were kind of a part of your identity, or you sucked in somebody else's identity, and you keep going down that path, there are going to be repercussions with you somewhere. Mine took 52 years to really start recognizing it. And I hope that some other people don't go through that. It's very hard to go through that, recognizing that what I was doing in the dark was affecting not only me, actually a majority of me, but when I'm not living out my true purpose, what God has given me, it affects Brent, it affects April, it affects my wife, Chrissy, it affects my kids, all these different things. And those are the things. So it's never in the dark, realistically, even though that we think it's in the dark, because God is always watching, and he will make those corrections to make sure that you don't go down that path. Now, you have free will to jump back on his path, or you have free will to continue down the path and hold hands with Satan and see where it goes.
Yeah.
I was a little preacherish right there.
It's all good.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you're reconciling this live.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're literally in the middle of it, and you're sitting in the middle of it.
For sure.
Right?
Oh, for
And
sure.
it is so one of my mentors says whenever you get in the stuff, just sit in it for a little while. Don't try to escape it, because it's the stuff that you're in is like quicksand. The more that you try and wiggle out of it, the deeper you're going to go.
Right. Yeah, and I think the big thing too is, I know it's awesome, and I'm glad that you said that too. And again, if this helps somebody, and that's why we do this show, we just want to help one more every episode. But the point of it is, when you are sitting in it, what I was not prepared for, when you're revealing kind of what you're sitting in, is there is a critique that's going to come with it. And it's hard right now to take that. Do I deserve it? Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it was my actions, so I can't say I don't deserve it. It's hard to, when you're like, I'm trying to get better, and you're being refined, and then you're being critiqued on the subject, to like, what do I freaking need to do to not be critiqued anymore? But understand that's a part of being refinement. If you take silver is stuck in the fire multiple times to get rid of all the impurities, right? That fire is just not fun. And there are a lot of times right now it's not fun. But I know that I have to go through this to make a bigger impact, to have an impact like a Dallas Boggs, to have an impact like Brent Wright. Now, people will say, Blair, you've done, I heard this the other day, is like, you have a bigger impact than you possibly know. I know that, but I have so much more, that once you start realizing your purpose and that refinement to really give the full purpose of who you're supposed to be, not for just for yourself, but for others. It's a rough one, brother. And I don't know who's going through it or not going through it. I'm just letting you guys know out there, this is where I'm at right now, and it is what it is. And we hope that we change their life.
A good friend of mine always says, every time I call him, I ask him how it's going. He goes, I've had a lot of opportunities today to make changes. Mm-hmm. And I'm as uncomfortable as these changes feel, I'm taking those opportunities and going to move forward with them. He says that every time I talk to him.
That's a good one.
And I'm like, are you trying to talk yourself into it, or are you trying to talk me into it? And he goes, well, if it talks you into it, I'm good. If it helps talk me into it, I'm better.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that's where I go back to is, what Brett and I, for so many episodes ago, we talked about, the suicide rate in men, and just as society in general, is we feel like we have nowhere to turn, or we feel like we've done so much. We just keep getting, can't get out of our own way at times. And it becomes very frustrating, especially when we're surrounded with, oh, this person's doing that and that person's doing that. And it looks like rose-colored petals and rainbows and unicorns. I really don't believe anybody's life is truly, truly 100% happy, regardless of what they say. There's always something that they have to go through, health or whatever. So, again, going back to, this is your first time watching the show, and it may be a little bit deep for you. The point of it is that we know that you're not the only ones out there. If it's men, women, teenagers, whatever it is that we're trying to give you guys a community to know that there's somebody else that's going through the same thing that you are, and life is not always going to be fun. People ask, Jesus, why am I going through this? He never said it was going to be easy, and that's stated throughout. If you want to read it, it's the best-selling book in the world, called the Bible, and it's one of the best blueprints and everything. Going through the book of Leviticus right now, and brother, that is a journey. I know we talked about that the other day, and it's like, oh my God, I couldn't do that. But there was some good stuff in there, man. And I think that's going back to, not that I think, but going back to kind of what you're doing in the dark starting. I think what's really spawned that for me is looking at yourself in the mirror, and then going back and then start like, I need to make this changes, or I always kept saying this was okay and this was okay and this was okay, and where it really wasn't. And being okay to, like, I don't care if you're 25 years old, 35, 65, 75, 55 like me, and that changes have to start there. That's the part is going to make an impact on this world and be remembered, not for what you sold or how much you gave to a certain part, but the impact that you had on other people.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you a tool here, Blair, and this might help you. It might help others listening too. So, you ever watch that movie 8 Mile with Eminem?
Yep.
All right. So on there, I call this the Eminem tool, because on that, in the rap battle, he finally realizes that if he throws out all of his insecurities and all of his faults on the table, then they have no power against him. Not only those things, but also other people don't have any power against him. So the purpose of looking at yourself in the mirror is for you to get right with the faults that you feel you have. So that way, when other people bring them to you, now it doesn't feel like refinement or critique. Now it's, you know what, you're right. And I've been dealing with that. And if you could help me to give me a tool to better do that, or move that needle faster, please give me the cheat code. I'm willing and open to learn. And that changes the dynamic of that discussion, because now they thought they were going to critique you or hold you accountable to something, and they have nothing to hold you accountable to, because you've already held yourself accountable to it. And it changes the dynamic of the conversation to where they can say, well, I've noticed this, and this is how you might phrase it or change it or do something differently, or whatever the situation is. But I love using that Eminem tool. It's like, if I'm right with myself and I already know all my faults, then what anybody else points out to me is going to be simple and easy to deal with.
That's hard getting there. But
it is.
It's a process. So
what would be easier, for you to address it and deal with it on your level and your space and your time and the way you want to deal with it with yourself? Or is it easier for other people to bring it to you?
Well,
for me, I like it by myself.
Yeah, I like it. No, I'm with you. That's what I was going to say to you, or answer you, is that, yeah, I mean, I need to figure it out, see it, fix it. And when other people, it does make critique a lot easier. That's for sure. And then, communication. So a lot of good stuff in here.
Yeah, none of it feels good.
Yeah. None of it feels good. This is not a feel good episode, but this is actually, but actually it is a feel good episode just because of start doing it and enjoy the process as much as it, enjoy the suck. You and I talk about that a while back? Enjoy the suck. Obviously that stuck in my mind somewhere along the line in there. But it's in there. So brother, I think this is some good stuff in here. It's really compact. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff to unpeel. So, if there was something that really stuck on you, go back and watch it. If there was something that stuck out to you in this episode or stuff that you're going through, let us know. I mean, we're getting better at getting comments on there, which is great. Even though that's live feedback, don't forget to go ahead and type through our YouTube channel or type through our Spotify channel or give us something else of an email or a text or whatever it is, but let that be known. Let us know how it helped you or more thoughts as you had on what you're going through. But as we always say, share that show. Don't be a hoe, share the show. So
I love it.
Besides, go make a damn difference. Any final thoughts for you, brother?
Yeah. Go make a damn difference in the dark or the darkness, because that is where the difference will be made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'll add to that because we've been talking about God so much. In that darkness, there is light.
Yep.
There is light.
He is a lamp unto my feet, as a book says.
So good. Somebody asked me the other day, as a kind of side note, we're in a men's Bible study on Tuesday. Because that was really spiritual. I'm sure that you don't do that with all your episodes. I'm like, no. There's always some cornerstone somewhere along the episode that we get onto, regardless of what we are. And he's like, wow, that's really cool. I'm like, it is, conversations don't happen by accident, and thoughts that, Brent coming up with what are we doing in the dark didn't come up by accident. There's things that God will put in our minds, and we explored them through this podcast, episode number 40. So 40 has been a great one. So anyways, guys, we're going to wrap it up here. We are going to go make a damn difference today. Brent is going to go do some body shop payroll, computer, father, husband, everything like that. I'm going to take care of 2 French bulldogs, try to figure out who the heck I'm becoming, and enjoy that stuff. And we're also going to go sell some houses along the way. So thank you guys so much for tuning in with us. Episode number 40. We hope that you enjoy this. As I said in the very beginning before we started, if you like this episode, please share this episode. Even if you don't like this episode, let us know why you didn't like it. We're not a monetary podcast on this, as we mentioned earlier. So anything you can help us to do to get the word out, we appreciate it. Until we see each other next time, guys, stay safe. But most of all, God bless, and we'll talk to you next week. Take care.